The moment had come and gone in the blink of an eye, but its impact will echo through history for decades. Imagine a room cloaked in hushed anticipation, the kind where every footstep seems too loud, every breath too visible. This was Clarence House on January 16, 2026. A closed-door gathering of palace insiders, advisors, and security personnel. Through the ornate doorway steps Princess and the Princess Royal, the relentless guardian of royal tradition, the woman whose silence spoke volumes for 70 years. She stood before them, crisp in poise, unwavering in expression. Then she spoke four simple words that shattered the Windsor Creed. The Saudi dossier is real. For generations, the House of Windsor lived by one unbreakable rule: never complain, never explain. That code was ironclad, forged in the trials of two world wars, and carried through coronations, scandals, and funerals. It was the shield that preserved dignity and power. But with Anne's revelation, the shield cracked. Within minutes, the ripple turned to a roar. Hashtags exploded. Hashtag Saudi dossier and hashtag Anne was right, trending across the United Kingdom in a digital stampede. Buckingham Palace fell silent. King Charles III, the once unflappable monarch, was described by insiders as deeply wounded, yet unsurprised. And somewhere across the Atlantic in Montecito, California, Prince Harry, a decorated veteran and former golden boy of royalty, found himself alone, inconsolable, and utterly undone. Contrast this scene with the last public event we saw Harry attend. Carefree waves to adoring crowds in Los Angeles, laughter with Meghan at a Hollywood gala, the sparkle in his eyes that spoke of new freedom. Now fast forward a heartbeat. No laughter, no spark, only the hollow ache of betrayal. Because this isn't merely palace drama or tabloid sensationalism. This is an intelligence operation, a geopolitical game that played out in the glittering super yachts of the Mediterranean, the penthouses of Monaco, and the hidden corridors of MI6. It's about British intelligence quietly flagging Meghan Markle's rise as strategic social placement, a term reserved for those cultivated, sponsored, and groomed to intersect with power. And so we ask, how did Harry, the Duke who relinquished his titles for love, miss every single warning? Or did he choose not to see? More chillingly, was Meghan a willing participant, or the unwitting pawn in a game far larger than she understood? The dossier paints a portrait both factual and unsettling. Yacht manifests mapping her stops in Antibes, Capri, and the Turkish Riviera, accommodations costing more than a year's salary in Hollywood, diamond earrings gifted by a foreign crown prince, and a handler known as Marcus Anderson orchestrating encounters in elite cliques from Soho House, Istanbul, to private receptions in London. That let's pause for a moment. Picture those yacht decks under a crimson sunset, the gentle lap of waves against polished hulls, and Meghan, smiling as glasses clinked. Who paid the tab? That question burned hotter than any scandalous headline. The dossier's financial forensics laid it bare. No verifiable income, only shadow patrons quietly financing a lifestyle that defied explanation. It wasn't charity. It wasn't coincidence. It was strategy. And Anne, ever the dutiful sentinel, saw the pattern before anyone else. The confrontation came when and pressed Harry in early 2017. She placed the dossier on the table at Gatcombe Park, laid out the yacht logs, the penthouse bills, the diplomatic gifts. His reply, "I don't care. I love her." She knew, as did the entire palace, that love, however blinding, does not answer forensic accounting. Love does not explain diamond parures traced to a Saudi crown prince. Love does not justify placement at soft power summits. Love is a powerful force, but in this case, it may have been the perfect cover for a soft invasion. Fast forward 9 years to that January morning. Harry, once the fearless soldier, the rebel prince, stared at the floor, silent for 10 minutes as if time itself had stopped. He retreated to a guest room, refusing food, refusing solace. King Charles, haunted by duty and paternal fear, reportedly said only, "Let him sit with it." Because there was nothing else to say. The record was clear, the dossier confirmed, the silence broken. Now the palace moves to adapt. A new Windsor firewall with mandatory MI5 and GCHQ vetting for all romantic partners, a registry of foreign-linked gifts, and a crown veto over engagements flagged by intelligence. The institution is evolving, learning one of the hardest lessons imaginable. The greatest threat isn't revolution or invasion. It's infiltration of the human heart, the slow, strategic placement of an individual whose loyalty cannot be assumed. Yet amid these seismic shifts, Princess and remains the quiet eye of the storm. She offered the warning, and though she was ignored, her vigilance never wavered. She did not seek glory or headlines. Instead, she held her counsel, collected her evidence, and let time wield the hammer. When she finally spoke, the world listened. Now, as we peel back the gilded layers of this saga, notice how every revelation compounds the stakes. In the days following Princess Anne's confirmation, the corridors of power in London buzzed with urgency. Senior aides hustled between Clarence House and Buckingham Palace, clutching folders stamped "Top Secret." Palace security protocols shifted overnight. Invitations to diplomatic dinners were rescinded, guest lists scrutinized under microscopes. Meanwhile, MI6 quietly retraced financial trails, cross-referencing yacht manifests with satellite logs. No one wanted to admit how deeply this breach cut into the monarchy's unspoken pact with the public, that proximity to royalty would remain untarnished by foreign machinations. Yet here we stand, watching an institution built on centuries of ritual and silence grapple with a weapon far subtler than any army: strategic social placement. The fallout was immediate and multifaceted. On one front, legal advisors drafted cease and desist letters, preparing to defend the royal family against libel claims while anticipating counterattacks from Meghan's team. On another, courtiers drafted new walking orders, literally, mapping every possible route a future royal might take in public to minimize unscripted encounters. Social media, once dominated by chic portraits of the next generation, now lit up with conspiracy charts and infographic timelines tracing Meghan's every known itinerary. News outlets clamored for exclusive interviews, while pundits on both sides of the Atlantic pontificated on whether the monarchy would survive this credibility crisis. And at the heart of it all lay a question more powerful than any headline. If a palace can be infiltrated from within, what fortress remains unbreachable? Equally intriguing is the persona at the heart of the operation: Marcus Anderson, the so-called handler, who worked in plain sight. Officially, Anderson managed memberships for an exclusive global club, Soho House, with locations spanning from Toronto to Istanbul. Unofficially, intelligence documents describe him as a luxury diplomacy fixer, a nod to his uncanny ability to assemble the right people in the right room at precisely the right time. In the Dossier, Anderson's work is mapped like a clandestine mission plan: introduction by mutual acquaintance, invitation to a curated event, subtle gift exchanges, incremental elevation in social tier, culminating in the critical moment: an engineered meet and greet between Meghan Markle and Prince Harry. Anderson's digital footprint vanished within hours of Anne's announcement. LinkedIn profile deactivated, event appearances canceled, and his private communications buried beneath layers of corporate firewalls. His absence now speaks volumes that Anderson's role, according to intelligence files, was that of a facilitator operating at the nexus of culture and power. Consider his 2015 itinerary, from London to Dubai to Istanbul, engaging with Gulf financiers, art brokers, and cultural attaches whose combined net worth rivaled small nations. Each engagement served as a waypoint for Meghan's ascent: a rooftop gala in Dubai, a gallery opening in London, the grand launch of a members-only lounge overlooking the Bosphorus. These weren't mere social events. They were vetting exercises, testing loyalty, gauging influence, and forging dependencies. Gifts, carefully calibrated in value, arrived in envelopes, discreet packages, and private shipments. Nothing traced back to South Kensington, but everything traced back to shadow patrons intent on positioning their asset: an attractive, English-speaking woman with a burgeoning public profile, somewhere she could intersect with global soft power. Now it's time to talk about the diamonds. October 2018, Fiji State Dinner. Meghan, resplendent in a sapphire gown, wears cascading diamond chopard earrings that instantly become the story. Kensington Palace statement: they were loaned by a jeweler. Dossier annotation: gift of MBS, valued at £500,000, routed via private diplomatic channels. Consider the symbolism: a crown prince, under global scrutiny for human rights abuses, choosing a public figure at the center of a cultural tug-of-war to send a loyalty signal. That signal lit up whispers in diplomatic circles, royal couture as geopolitical currency. The earrings linked back to a yacht party in Antibes, traced through customs records in Geneva and Istanbul. In intelligence speak, they were a closing gift, the final token marking transition out of a patronage network. By wearing them to a state event, Meghan broadcast allegiance to her backers, igniting both outrage and disbelief. Here's what MI6 uncovered when tracking the financial forensics. Between 2008 and 2015, Meghan's declared income averaged under £40,000 annually. Yacht stays, penthouse suites, first-class flights, and red carpet events tallied over £1.5 million. No loans, no inheritance, no transparent source. Instead, shadow transactions, anonymous wire transfers, off-book hospitality credits, unmarked envelopes. These findings shifted part of the dossier from suspicious to actionable intelligence. Behaviors once chalked up to Hollywood flair required reclassification to strategic social placement, a designation that triggered internal alarms. The term, used sparingly by British counterintelligence, applies to individuals groomed to infiltrate high-tier social environments for influence operations. It's the soft power version of a traditional spycraft technique. Replace smoke and guns with gifts and grand entrances. Amid this maelstrom, public opinion has swayed dramatically. Polling data released the night of January 16th shows 68% support the palace's right to vet prospective royal partners. 54% favor stripping Harry and Meghan of titles based on a breach of trust. Meanwhile, 71% view Princess and more favorably now than before, an astonishing shift for someone who rarely seeks the spotlight. Social media analysis indicates a surge in user-generated content praising and stoicism, memes of her steely gaze, TikTok reenactments of the dossier handoff, Twitter threads dissecting her quotes. At the same time, hashtags like hashtag rescind the titles and hashtag where is Anderson trended globally. In Hollywood, celebrity gossip sites scrambled to reposition Meghan's narrative from fairy tale romance to geopolitical intrigue. The story's magnetism lies in its defiance of easy categories. Is it royal scandal, spy thriller, or cultural reckoning? Viewers can't look away. For Prince Harry, the reckoning extends beyond personal betrayal. His public image, once that of a modernizing royal hero, now strains under contradictions. Remember the rebel prince who traded uniforms for film sets, who sacrificed privilege for autonomy. That image bolstered his media brand, speaking tours, Netflix deals, a memoir promising truths untold. Yet branding oneself as the champion of transparency while harboring doubts about a partner's backers reveals a paradox. How does one advocate for open conversation when silence once ruled the palace? How does a man position himself as a victim of institutional secrecy when he willingly stepped away from its protections? The dossier's arrival forces Harry to reconcile his public narrative with private unease. His love story now entangled in an intelligence dossier he once dismissed as rumor. Yet for the monarchy, the long-term play is clear: institutional resilience. The proposed Windsor firewall isn't just damage control, it's a blueprint for the modern monarchy. Mandatory background checks by MI5 and GCHQ, a registry of foreign-linked gifts with quarterly audits, and an engagement clause granting the sovereign veto over high-profile unions flagged by security intelligence. Think of it as an ethical compliance program for the nobility, designed to shield the crown from soft infiltration that could erode public trust. Royal advisors argue this reinforces the monarchy's credibility in a world where power often shifts beyond borders. Critics worry it smacks of Orwellian overreach. But when reputations and legacies hang in the balance, the Windsor strategy is a calculated gamble. Control the narrative, tighten the gates, and emerge fortified as the dust begins to settle. New players emerge to shape the next chapter of this clash between tradition and modern power. For Prince Harry, the road ahead now forks into uncharted territory. He can choose reconciliation and public contrition, stepping back into the fold with a humbled demeanor, or cling to his narrative of outsider heroism, doubling down on the tale he has built piece by piece. But with the Saudi dossier confirmed, neither path is straightforward. A heartfelt apology might restore some goodwill, but would also expose him to relentless scrutiny. Every gesture, every speech, examined for sincerity and weighed against the warnings he once ignored. Conversely, retreating into further silence or defiance risks alienating longtime supporters who value transparency over defiance. The delicate balance Harry must strike could define his legacy. As a man who faced his blind spots and by doing so matured, or as someone forever committed to a story that no longer holds. Meghan Markle's response, or conspicuous lack of one, has ignited equal fascination. Historically quick to deploy seasoned legal teams and social media strategists, she has remained eerily quiet. This silence itself has become a statement, one that pundits call daring or tone-deaf depending on their perspective. Some insiders suggest she's taking a page from Princess Anne's playbook: stay silent, gather facts, and let the fallout speak on her behalf. Others argue that her legal advisors are navigating a minefield of classified intelligence, wary that any misstep could open them to defamation suits. In the coming days, a carefully curated message or media event seems inevitable. Whether she opts for a public interview, a written statement, or an appeal to allies in government and media circles, Meghan's choice will reverberate through royal watchers and intelligence analysts alike. And the question at the heart of it will remain: was she complicit or simply another pawn? Beyond the principles lies a world of geopolitical intrigue. Gulf states and foreign powers are watching intently, calculating the potential fallout for cultural diplomacy. Soft power relies on prestige and influence, often conveyed through cultural icons and strategic partnerships. Meghan's role, whether accidental or orchestrated, represents a case study in how non-state actors can insert influence into centuries-old institutions. Western intelligence services have long warned of foreign interference via technology and information warfare, but this episode underscores a subtler vector: social infiltration. Diplomatic cables now discussing lessons learned are likely classified, but their insights will guide future policies on vetting high-profile visitors and partners. Academic circles and international relations will dissect strategic social placement as a form of non-kinetic warfare, analyzing how cultural capital, when wielded skillfully, can yield influence without a shot fired. Meanwhile, palace courtiers grapple with the human element. The institution is an assembly of individuals, performers in a centuries-old drama, each with personal loyalties, ambitions, and feelings. Queen Camilla, navigating her relatively new role, has offered nothing public beyond private condolences to her daughter-in-law. King Charles, confronted with the dual burden of fatherhood and sovereign duty, reportedly spent late January hours reviewing security protocols and advising his inner circle to prioritize discretion. Prince William, whose relationship with Harry has been strained since the 2020 split, now finds himself torn between family solidarity and institutional integrity. Privately, William is said to be determined yet cautious, backing the Windsor firewall while still hoping for eventual reconciliation. The Cambridge's social engagements have temporarily slowed as they await the formalization of the new vetting measures. In public, they remain stoic. In private, their conversations are laced with the gravity of what this dossier means for the monarchy's future cohesion. Around the globe, public reaction has been a mosaic of empathy and outrage. In America, where Meghan and Harry built their post-royal careers, focus groups show divided sentiment. Roughly half view Meghan as a victim of an unfair system seeking to destroy her, while the other half harbor deep skepticism fueled by the dossier details. Talk show hosts debate whether Hollywood circles facilitated this alleged operation or if industry insiders were as unaware as the public. In the UK, the monarchy remains a paradoxical institution, timeless yet vulnerable. Royal correspondents ruefully note that institutionally, the sovereign's credibility hinges less on fairy tale pageantry and more on unspoken bonds of trust with the public. Polling suggests that trust has eroded, but not irreparably. The monarchy's survival depends on its agility, presenting itself as both dignified and responsive to modern threats. As this drama unfolds, content creators and media companies smell opportunity. Streaming services are said to be in early talks for an unauthorized documentary series focusing on the Dossier saga. Podcast hosts are feverishly planning multi-part deep dives, while digital publications chase every leaked memo and anonymous source. The story has transcended tabloids and entered the realm of popular fascination with espionage dramas. Its appeal lies in the interplay of opulence, secrecy, love, and betrayal, elements that fuel human curiosity like no others. Brands and advertisers, wary of controversy, are already reevaluating upcoming partnerships tied to royal-themed narratives. Even luxury travel agencies preparing Royal Explorer packages on Mediterranean routes have temporarily paused promotions, uncertain whether the revelatory aura of the yachts and palaces has dulled the heart of this maelstrom lie broader questions of identity and belonging. Meghan's journey from Hollywood to the throne ignited debates about race, class, and the definition of modern royalty. Her story was initially cast as a fairy tale, an American actress marrying a prince, challenging centuries of tradition. Yet the dossier reframes that arc in geopolitical terms, reminding us that fairy tales can mask power plays. For Harry, that reframing may trigger a profound reevaluation of his choice to break from duty in pursuit of personal freedom. For the monarchy, it urges a harder look at how inclusivity and tradition can coexist without inviting exploitation or undermining public confidence. And for society at large, it highlights how personal relationships, when intertwined with institutional authority, can become vectors for larger strategic ambitions. Perhaps the most poignant lesson is universal. Love, however profound, does not immunize us against exploitation. The dossier's narrative, for all its drama and data, distills to this simple human truth. We trust those we hold dear, sometimes to our detriment. We overlook red flags when emotions run high, and we interpret loyalty through the lens of our desires. Harry's tearful silence was not just about the revelation of dossiers and diamonds. It was the shattering of a personal mythology. It was realizing that trust, once broken at its root, demands a reckoning that goes beyond public statements and security reforms. For content creators and media strategists, the Saudi dossier saga offers a template for crafting narratives that blend factual depth with cinematic tension. Whether covering geopolitics, culture, or high society sagas, the key is anchoring emotional stakes in concrete evidence, dates, figures, first-hand accounts, while weaving in character-driven arcs. Smooth transitions between macro analysis and intimate moments will keep audiences leaning in. And embracing contradictions, honoring tradition yet challenging orthodoxy, creates the friction that fuels engagement. In an era where attention spans are fleeting, the marriage of data, drama, and deliberate pacing invites viewers not just to watch, but to stay, share, and return.